In Singapore, under the blinding lights of Marina Bay, McLaren's dream season turned dark. The team that started the year united in pursuit of both titles suddenly found itself at the heart of a competition. When Lando Norris aggressively forced his way past Oscar Piastri with no penalty, no team orders, and no accountability, the damage wasn't just on the track, it was psychological, it was emotional. Piastri's furious question over the radio, "Are we cool with Lando just barging me out of the way?" summed up what millions watching around the world were already thinking something inside McLaren is broken. And now the fallout is unavoidable. Team boss Zak Brown insists they're simply letting them race, but Martin Brundle and other F1 experts believe this rivalry has reached the point of no return. McLaren's unity, the key to their championship hopes, could be collapsing in real time. Before we dive deeper into the chaos inside McLaren's garage and how this could redefine the future of both drivers, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is one story every F1 fan needs to understand before the next Grand Prix in Austin. This isn't just a small disagreement between teammates, this is an all-out internal crisis that could shatter McLaren's title ambitions and reshape its future. What happened in Singapore wasn't an isolated incident, it was the explosion of tension that had been quietly building inside the orange garage for months. Let's rewind. Earlier in the season, Oscar Piastri was seen as McLaren's golden boy, calm, precise, and ruthlessly efficient. He brought points, consistency, and a sense of quiet confidence that made the entire team believe they could finally challenge Red Bull. But as the 2025 season unfolded, something began to shift. Team radio calls started to favor Lando Norris. Small strategy choices, pit stop timing, tyre priority, even aerodynamic updates began to suggest that McLaren's equal treatment was more myth than policy. The Italian Grand Prix was the first major crack. When Norris suffered a slow pit stop, the team ordered Piastri to give back the position he had earned on track. It seemed harmless at the time, a team-first decision. But in hindsight, that was the moment Piastri realized that inside McLaren, fairness wasn't always guaranteed. Fast forward to the Singapore Grand Prix. The lights were bright, the tension high, and McLaren was on the verge of securing the Constructors' Championship. Yet instead of unity, the team's two drivers went to war. Norris made a bold, some would say desperate move on Piastri, forcing the Australian offline. It was the kind of move you expect from rivals, not teammates. The contact was light, but symbolically, it was devastating. The team's golden rule, no contact between drivers, was broken. When the dust settled, Piastri's frustration boiled over. His angry radio message, "Are we cool with Lando just barging me out of the way?" revealed exactly how deep the wound was. And when no team order or penalty followed, the silence from McLaren spoke volumes. They were letting them race, Zak Brown later said. But what that really meant was, we're not taking sides, even if it looks like we are. Martin Brundle, never one to sugarcoat, described it perfectly. The relationship between the two McLaren drivers will irrevocably change. And he's right. Once that trust is broken, it never comes back. Perhaps McLaren should just let them duke it out, Brundle continued. But they'll have to deal with the fallout, damaged cars, lost points, and Verstappen closing in fast. Behind closed doors, things got even more dramatic. Reports claim Piastri disconnected his team radio after the race and didn't join McLaren's post-race celebration. Despite the team clinching the Constructors' title, he was seen leaving the paddock alone, a symbolic image of a driver who feels isolated within his own camp. Former driver David Coulthard blasted the team's handling of the situation, saying McLaren had got Piastri offside. He compared it to his own time at McLaren during the Mika Häkkinen era, where the promise of fairness didn't always match reality. Coulthard's words carry weight, because they highlight something deeper: emotional fairness. In Formula One, performance isn't just about machinery, it's about trust. And when a driver feels the team doesn't have his back, that trust evaporates. That's exactly what's happening now with Piastri. And then came the twist that shocked everyone: a bombshell report from Times Blick Times suggesting that Piastri might be eyeing a move to Ferrari after the 2026 season. On paper, that sounds impossible. McLaren announced earlier this year that Piastri had signed a multi-year extension that likely runs through 2028. But contracts in Formula One are rarely unbreakable. If relationships deteriorate beyond repair, escape clauses start to look very tempting. The timing is also curious. Formula One's 2026 regulation overhaul could spark a massive driver reshuffle. Ferrari's lineup featuring Leclerc and Hamilton might not remain stable. Leclerc's long-term patience with Ferrari's underperformance is wearing thin, while Hamilton's contract reportedly has an option that expires in 2027. If either one moves, Ferrari could open a seat, and Piastri's name is already being whispered in Maranello corridors. For McLaren, the implications are dangerous. The strongest driver pairing in decades is turning into their biggest liability. Norris, emboldened by recent wins, has closed the gap to just 22 points. Piastri, meanwhile, has lost ground in 3 consecutive races. The Australian's composure is being tested, and the paddock is starting to talk. Some insiders suggest Piastri is cracking under pressure. But is he really? Or is he just reacting like any top-tier driver would when he senses betrayal? Zak Brown's refusal to intervene might look like an attempt to maintain neutrality, but it could backfire spectacularly. History shows what happens when teams let them race. Senna and Prost destroyed McLaren's unity. Hamilton and Rosberg tore Mercedes apart from the inside. Rivalry without boundaries always ends the same way: chaos, broken relationships, and lost championships. Now, as the F1 circus prepares for Austin, the McLaren garage will be under the microscope. Cameras will zoom in on every handshake, every pit wall exchange, every piece of body language between Norris and Piastri. Because this isn't just a sporting rivalry anymore, it's a psychological war. And unless Zak Brown steps in with authority, McLaren might watch both their drivers self-destruct. The real tragedy? McLaren's long-awaited return to the top could collapse, not because of Red Bull or Ferrari, but because of themselves. Internal politics, ego and mistrust are the silent killers of great teams. The question now isn't whether McLaren can win the title, it's whether they can survive their own success. If Piastri's frustration keeps growing and Ferrari truly comes calling, McLaren might soon realize they didn't just lose control of a title fight, they lost the future of their team. So, what happens next? Will McLaren risk everything by keeping the gloves off? Or will they step in before the team implodes from within? And if the tension continues to rise, could we actually see Oscar Piastri in red, a Ferrari driver, by 2027? Let me know what you think in the comments. Is McLaren destroying its own championship chances, or is this just the price of having 2 world-class drivers fighting for glory?